Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another final reaction Sunday for the season, but maybe not. It was still an overreaction. Because just because the national championship came and went does not mean that football is over. There's just no games, just tons and tons of gossip.
Lots of gossip going on right now, Drew. A lot of it.
But I am joined, as always, by the man on the beat. The man has been on this beat for the last 8 years. And he just freshly returned from Atlanta, watching Ohio State successful in beating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Is that your first national championship game you went to? You go in? You didn't go in the 15 or 14, I guess.
14, no. In fact, I literally, my first year covering the beat for Columbus Wired was the very next season. So,
wow,
this was a hell of a way to cap off a run of covering Ohio State football for Columbus Wired.
That's right. And so you're freshly back. And so tell us about your journey. You went down there. What day did you go down there? You went down there on Sunday.
So we left good old Sam.
Wait, did I introduce you? Andrew T. Evans, obviously. Andrew T. Evans. All right. Sorry about that, sir.
It's all right. I get forgotten about a lot of the time, which I'm going to apologize to you about forgetting about something here in a couple minutes. All right, I am. But Sam and I, good old Sam Fahmy, we left the southwest side of Columbus around 6:15 in the morning on Sunday, obviously the day before the national championship. And according to Google Maps, it's an 8.5-hour drive. So we figured we'd give ourselves a little buffer because we were trying to make it to the hotel in downtown Atlanta, which was just a hop and a skip from the stadium itself, by 6 o'clock Sunday night, because that was when the window closed to pick up media credentials that would allow us to get into the media dinner that they were holding later that night around 7:30. And it also allowed us to get into the media hospitality room that they had open pretty much, not all hours of the night, but they had open fairly late. So media members could go in there, they could hang out, get some drinks, get some snacks. They served food. It was a really nice setup. But at any rate, we leave at about 6:15 Sunday morning. Figure that would give us a nice buffer. It's supposed to be an 8.5-hour ride down according to maps. And let's just say things got interesting on the way down. Okay. The day before, now I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna ruin the ending, but I am gonna set it up by saying this. So as soon as I say it, people are gonna go, "Oh no, well, yeah, we already know what happened," just by you saying that.
Bury the lead, then. Keep going.
Okay, all right. So I'll bury that part of it because I don't want to give away necessarily what happened. But we got down to, I don't know, it was like Southern Kentucky, Northern Tennessee. And, well, I'm going to give it away now. My low tire light came on.
Oh, no.
So find some rando podunk exit off of the freeway. We're on 75 South, and pop off. And then little rando podunk gas station just right there at the exit. Check my tire, and it's at like 30, pounds per square inch. Not bad. It's supposed to be at 35. It's at 30. All right, cool, whatever. Filled up with a little bit of air. Get back on the road. Well, we hit northern Georgia, and all of a sudden the light comes on again, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I just filled it up, but when we got off the exit there at Tennessee, it was at 30. I'm thinking, we'll be fine, We'll get down close to Atlanta and we'll pop off somewhere, which is what we ended up doing. So we went from like northern Georgia, and it was almost basically when we crossed over the border from Tennessee into Georgia, the light came on. So we got all the way down to Calhoun, Georgia, and there was a Buckeyes there, which was actually our second Buckeyes stop of the trip down. We stopped at the one in Richmond, Kentucky earlier in the day. Then we stopped at the one in Calhoun, Georgia. And, I'm like, okay, this will give me an opportunity to check the air in my tire once again. So we park, we go inside, grab some more snacks and whatnot. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Buckyes before, but it's like Flying J on steroids, dude. It's nuts. I mean, they have probably like 100 gas pumps at Buckyes. I'm not exaggerating. And the inside, tires? Like, huh?
Do they have tires?
No, they don't have tires. So, get to the Buckyes, get our stuff, and we're literally waiting in line just to get out onto the main part of the exit onto the side road to get back on the freeway. And waiting in line, and some guy, he's like flashing his lights at me. And I didn't realize he's flashing his lights at me specifically at first. You know, someone flashed their lights, you kind of look, whatever. And then a few seconds later, flashes them again. So this time I actually look in my rear view. I'm like, is he flashing them at me? And sure enough, I see him looking at me. He now sees me looking at him. We're looking directly at each other. He starts pointing down to the ground. And I'm like, oh, shit, Andy, dummy, you forgot to check the air in your tire. So I give the guy a thumbs up, pull around to the back of Buckyes, get out of line, and go around the back of the building looking for an air tire machine. Air pump, right. Couldn't find it. Drive all the way back around, pull into a parking spot, and without actually looking at my tire at first, I get out of the car, and I just go walk inside. And I asked the girl, hey, do you guys got an air pump? Yeah, it's like in the back. I'm like, well, you know, okay, thanks. And as I'm walking out, I'm like, I looked. I swear to God, I looked. Like, we drove real slow. It wasn't like we were driving fast. And couldn't find, I couldn't see it. So at that point then, as I then approach my car, I look down at my tire and it's gone. I mean, it is flat. There ain't no putting air in this thing and fixing it. So I tell Sam, I'm like, dude, this tire is flat. And he's like, you got a spare? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's get it on. So I'm like, all right. So God loves Sam. I pull all this crap out of my trunk. I've got golf clubs. I've got jumper cables. I've got this and that and all sorts of crap in my trunk. I pull it all out. I get the spare out. And he gets the jack, starts jacking up the car, taking off the lug nuts, gets the flat tire off, starts putting the spare on. And while he's kind of doing all of this, it dawned on me, I've got AAA. Like, why the hell am I not calling AAA to do this? Why is Sam doing this for me? God love him for doing it. But I'm calling AAA, and he's like, dude, we're going to have this. I'm going to have the spare on in like 10 minutes. Just, don't even worry about AAA. But I remain on the phone with them. I get somebody on the horn. They're like, are you in a safe place? Yes, I am. Are you in Ohio? No, I'm not. Oh, let me get you to the right people in Georgia. So I then talked to somebody in Georgia, and they're like, okay, we're going to send you a text message with a link that you've got to click on to, get somebody roadside assistance come out and see you. And then at this point, Sam's pretty much got the spare on.
Yeah,
but this guy comes pulling up, and he's like, hey, you guys need some help. And we're like, no, we're good. We're good. Thank you. Appreciate it. And he's like, are you sure? Yeah, we're good. And you're like, all right, cool. So he pulls off, and then literally as Sam is putting the finishing touches on the spare, another guy pulls up, and he's like, hey, do you guys need a new tire? Didn't ask if we needed help. Said, do you need a new tire?
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is Sunday afternoon, and at this point, it's about...
You do need a new tire.
It's about 4:15. So, and we're still an easy hour outside of Atlanta. Calhoun's Maps was saying like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. And it's like 4:15. So we're starting to get to crunch time to be able to get to the hotel, to get our credential, to get into the blah, blah, blah. But this guy, do you need a new tire? And I'm like, yeah, we might. And he's like, well, I own a shop 10 minutes down the road. I'll get you a new tire for $125. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you got a card? He's like, yeah. Gives me his card, said, "What's your name?" He said, "Lorenzo." I said, "Well, I'm Andy. Nice to meet you. Thank you." He's got his phone number on the back of the card. I'm like, probably be in touch. So I look at Sam after he pulls away, and I'm like, should we try this? And he's like, dude, it's Sunday. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day, federal holiday.
Yeah.
Some places might be closed. We're supposed to leave at like 5 o'clock on Tuesday morning. You know, driving on a spare, you're really not supposed to drive very far on a spare. They say, what, like 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, you know, and you're not supposed to go over like, 50,
55.
60 miles an hour. Yeah. So we already had an hour or so still to go, and it was going to be all freeway driving. And Sam's like, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So we get in the car, we start driving, and I looked at Sam and said, well, either this is legit or we're ending up in a wood chipper. So sure enough, we get to the place, and he's got a garage painted with his business name. He's got a couple of bays there. We pull up. He opens up the garage door bay. Sure enough, there are tires there. Boom. He puts on the new tire, and at this point, it's a little after 4:30 now.
Nice.
And we still got to make it down, though, to the hotel before 6 to get the credential and be able to make the dinner and
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Basically, we ended up hitting Atlanta traffic at like 5:45, and by the time we got to the hotel, it was like the hotel checked in, got our bags up there, all of that. It was like 6:15, 6:20, and we're like, shit, we missed it. We missed our freaking window, It's like, oh, well, no big deal. I mean, yeah, it would have been cool to be able to go to the dinner, but it is what it is. Well, he's talking to one of the fellow beat writers that he knows really well enough to have their phone number. And this guy's like, dude, just go up to the hospitality room and give them your name. Like, they have a sheet with everybody's name on it. You just give them your name and ID, and I'm sure they'll be like, okay, cool. Just because you don't have your credential, your name is here. Here's your ID, And we did, and they were like, yeah, go ahead. They gave us a little wristband, and so we were at least able to get into the hospitality room, but that still didn't mean we could get into the actual dinner itself. So 7:30 hit, and Sam's like, hey, let's go try it again. Let's see if we can get into the media dinner like we were able to get into this hospitality room. I said, it's worth a shot. So we go over there. Same thing happened. Gave them our ID, said, we're with Columbus Wired. Here's our name. And they're like, oh, okay, go ahead. And we were able to get into the dinner. So by the grace of God, dude, I'm telling you right now, by the grace of God, we would not have made it down there. I mean, traveling as long as we did on a flat tire, basically, that didn't go completely flat or blow out until we got to the rest stop. Some random dude that just happens to own his own tire shop 10 minutes down the road. The guy blinking his lights behind me to let me know and remind me, hey, Andy, your tire, because who knows what could have happened had I tried to get back out on the road. Yeah, just nuts, man. Just the way everything worked out. So that was more that was the craziest part of the journey by far. And then of course, the game itself, which kind of, we'll go over that, I'm sure, here in a minute, which, it had its highs, it had its lows, it kind of had a little bit of drama there, obviously near the end, the very beginning, kind of near the end. Yeah, it was an amazing trip, an amazing experience. Like you said, that was my first ever national championship game. Really, it was my first ever postseason game, kind of. 2 Big Ten championships, and then of course the Tennessee game this year in the shoe. But yeah, the national championship, I'd never been to like a bowl game before, never been to obviously a national championship game. So to be able to say that I've got it tucked under my belt now is pretty cool. So altogether, great experience, and yeah, it was fun for sure.
Did you have a few then when you got into town? Were you relieved?
I may have unwound with a couple of beverages. Yes. It was pretty sweet. Like the media dinner, you went into it was like a big kind of like it wasn't even a conference room. It was really weird. It was like there were two parts to this huge area. There was like a front room and a back room. And the front room was very upscale and elegant. And they had this girl who was playing a violin, but it wasn't like that. Like they were playing it was kind of like karaoke violin style, where they were playing like contemporary music, like, top 40 kind of stuff, but like more like, Dave Matthews Band, they weren't playing like, rap or heavy metal or anything like that, or hard rock. It was just kind of like, easy listening, top 40 stuff. And so the songs in the background, and she's playing the violin with it. What's that?
So you thought the music stunk?
I'm not going to go as far as say it stunk. I mean, some of the stuff they were playing, I was like, yeah, like I grew up listening.
Yeah, really cool. Why don't you take your violin somewhere else? It's for a man's sport, lady. Get the hell out of here. Just because we're in the press and we like this type of music? Get out of here.
I'm sure that was part of the ballroom style experience, regardless of what event you were going to hold. But I'm sure there probably were some reports.
Did they have Jaeger bombs at the?
They did not have Jaeger there. No. But the real party was in the back.
Oh,
now, back there,
they had Jaeger bombs.
Huh?
They had Jaeger bombs back there.
They did not have them back there.
I was really hoping you could have had some Jaeger bombs at your one national championship.
No.
Bud Light.
That would have. They had Bud Light. Yeah.
Did you have some Bud Lights?
They did have Bud Light. Yeah.
Well, I was asking specifically if you did.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, good.
Actually, no. I think I was drinking Captain and Coke the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, I only had like 2 or 3 of them. I didn't have
stiff beverage after the adrenaline rush of, oh, fuck, I'm in northern Georgia. My tire just blew. I'm kind of overwhelmed. I kind of knew I might have needed to change my tire, but I thought it'd be fine.
Yeah.
I've done that. And then it's like, okay, cool. I could make my donut. I could get there, but hopefully I find something in Atlanta. And then thankfully, old Lorenzo out of northern Georgia, shout out to Lorenzo, saving Columbus Wired from missing the national championship.
Dude, it was nuts. I mean, once again, man, the grace of God, just everything came together to make that, to get a brand new tire on my car. Yeah. And yeah, it just unbelievable,
I had
seriously.
2 of my tires blow last week. Was it last? It was 2 weeks ago. It was 2 Thursdays ago. It was
both of them at the same time?
Well, I had one that was about to go in the front, and the back right tire blew on 71, and thankfully you can hit up. In the state of Ohio on the highways, we have those Geico trucks, so you're supposed to call the cops. So if you're on that freeways in Columbus, they want you to call 911. Because you are at risk. It is it's a highway, so you're in a hazardous area. So they have those trucks to come, and they'll come and help you change your tires. Because I never gotten a flat or had to change my back tire myself on my Escape, and the jack doesn't get high enough for me to actually put the donut on. So I had my jack like all the way up, and I was like, I shouldn't have taken the highway. And I was like, actually, thank God I did, because the guy had one of these hydraulic jacks. I had to go get like a 2-inch piece of thankfully I had like a board to put on his jack so I could even get my tire on there. And then I went to the used tire shop, and my little Moroccan buddy was like, your front tire's bad too, you need to change that. So then I had to go and get some more cash, because I like to go to cash only establishments. And then I got the other car and or the other tire done, and now my car's it's great, handling way better. So
it's amazing when you get the proper equipment on your vehicle, how much better it can.
Yeah.
It can, yeah.
So you guys had a good time then, Saturday or Friday or Sunday night.
Sunday night, yeah. So like I was saying, the real party was in the back, And like the up front, they had the violin,
Yeah.
lady playing, and then they had like those the like the Cirque du Soleil style stuff where like the ladies climb up the like the long not ropes but like
For the
curtains,
press? For the press?
Yeah, she was climbing up there and twirling around and hanging upside down and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, it wasn't constant going on, but a couple of different times, yeah, they had some girl up there doing that. And they had like this slide that was going from like the second level down to the first level, and like the bottom of the slide was sitting on top of like a table, and they were sliding down sliders for people, and they had like a couple of different sliders you could choose from, and they drop it and it slid down and then it bounced across the table, and people catch it and yay, people cheered. At any rate, they had that going on in the front. They had a couple of like different little snack stations, some sugar smacked bacon, like piles of it sitting on a table. And then they had like some buffalo potato chips, like kettle style. And it was good. It was really good. But the party was in the back. And that's where they had like a DJ who was playing, like today's music. They had a couple of different eating stations. Like one had shrimp and grits, and the other was like Wagyu beef, hot dogs, and chicken wedges, and a couple other things. And they had like this donut station where they were like pouring the glaze and the oil on the donuts, and then some dude had a flamethrower and was
awesome.
like toasting up the donuts. Yeah, it was pretty sweet. And then they had like a bar area there. They had a bunch of like flat screens that everybody was gathered around, because at that point, that was like when the Bills and Ravens were playing. So
I knew the Bills would win that.
Yeah. So
everyone in there slandering old what's his name? The Todd Andrews or Mark Andrews, or they're all being like, he should have caught that. I can't believe it. He should have came out and talked to the media.
I mean, I'm sure there probably were some guys and gals standing around talking about, Mark Andrews is non-catch, but
I mean, they weren't going to beat the Bills. The Bills had like a minute and a half left. Josh Allen is a man possessed right now.
Yeah, almost.
Hoping he sends Mahomes home. So
got that game firing up here, 6:30.
So and then so that was Saturday night. How were the donuts? Were they
Sunday
good?
Night, yeah.
Sunday night, I meant. How were the donuts? Did they taste good?
I didn't try one. I did not try one personally. I did not. Sam did.
Rum and Coke with donuts sounds amazing in Atlanta, Georgia, when it's cold outside.
I was focused more on my Captain and Coke than I was.
You don't like to eat if you have a drink in your hand. You don't like to mix. You get sick.
I'm not. No, it's one or the other. Either I'm gonna have some drinks, then I'm gonna eat and call it a night.
Yeah.
Or I'm just not gonna have some drinks at all and just snack. But like to do both at the same time, I am not that kind of guy. I just yeah.
So how far did you guys stay from the event center, from where everything was?
It was at the Peachtree Westin, which was, I don't know. I mean, literally from the hotel room, we could see Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
So nice. So you could walk to everything.
Yeah, in fact, Sam Monday morning went out on a little adventure and went out.
Got some photos.
He went walking around, took some pics. I don't know if he actually put them on Columbus Wired's like website or Facebook page. I think he put them on his own Facebook page at the very least. So
nice.
Yeah, if you're looking to check out a lot of Sam's work, which he put up this ill-ass 89 picture sequence of Jeremiah Smith's 57-yard catch near the end of the game, and it looks like stop motion. And I'm pretty sure I reposted it on Columbus Wired's Facebook page at the very least, and I think you can find it like on Sam's Twitter. And by the way, he spells his name. It's Sameh Fahmy, Fahmi. If you're looking for him on Facebook or Instagram or
what is it?
Sameh Fahmy, and his full first name is Sameh, and then last name Fahmi. Same Fahmy. So,
all right, let's see if we can pull this up.
Yeah, he had some amazing shots. But yeah, let's talk about the game. So, the game itself, I mean, what can you say, Drew? Obviously, Ohio State did what they
happened?
had to do.
What did you do? What was everything like leading up to the game?
I don't know. I mean, it was it's weird because we got there at like 1:30, and we were gonna originally just set up, and instead we and we were gonna go back, just set up and then go back at some point. At least I was. And then I just ended up staying there. But it wasn't like there was like all this craziness going on to the point where I felt like, oh man, I can't leave this scene right now. Like, this is just too much fun to leave. Nothing like that. I just got there and just kind of set up my stuff and then just kind of hung out. Honestly, I walked around the stadium a little bit. I took some pictures of some things. There was this wall. It was pretty cool. They had like all of the helmets from like every single Georgia high school that's part of the Georgia High School Athletic Association or something. And so like they had a big wall there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium of all the Georgia high school football helmets. And then, like later, they had like the Notre Dame band was walking around, the Ohio State band, and band members were taking pictures with the fans and stuff. And, I took a couple of shots of like us going into Mercedes-Benz Stadium when we first got there. And then like at some point around like 4:30, I was back outside and I just kind of took a, like a minute and a half video of just some of the fans walking around and stuff. It were really nothing big. Took a video of like inside the stadium, like, I went down on the field. Actually, I went down on the field with Sam beforehand, and we were going to do our pregame preview down there, but they had the music was blaring. We literally would have been screaming and yelling at the top of our lungs just to be able to be heard. So we ended up doing it outside somewhere, kind of like around like the front entrance area where they have like this huge like hawk. Or maybe it was an eagle or something. I don't know, some big bird or something like that. But you're pulling up the
Studio 79 is his Instagram at Studio.
There it is to the left, obviously. Yeah.
There's a lot of them, but we can check it out. So Sam got some great photos.
That's his ex too.
So anyway, but let's talk about the game. Let's talk about this game. We can get it going. I've been picking your brain about the trip, and people are probably.
We're almost half an hour in. Yeah.
It's awesome. All right. So, we're almost 40 minutes in, but yeah. So the game, I tell you, man, Notre Dame started out playing their game. There was that 10-minute drive. Riley, I felt pretty good because Riley Leonard looked really beat up after that first drive. And it looks like they did play Notre Dame football against the Buckeyes, but they seemed to pay a price for it. They had a pretty beat up offensive line. OSU just started to kind of run away with it, and then the second half, they make the adjustment and they started getting some traction. I mean, I thought the game wasn't as close as the score indicated, but at the same time, Notre Dame really did make my butt cheeks clench. But you could tell, looked like we were on cruise control, just trying to run out the clock. And the main reason why is because like Notre Dame doesn't play well from behind. They got the Buckeyes playing their game, and then the Buckeyes kind of took advantage of it. I thought the Buckeyes actually played a really good old school Ohio State style of football with a nice big with a couple big plays that helped us, jump ahead.
Yeah, and Notre Dame came out with their game plan of we're going to run the ball. We're going to be successful. I think they used Riley Leonard way too much to run the ball, but I know they were trying to catch Ohio State off guard because even though Riley Leonard was second on the team for the season in rushing yards.
Jeremiah Love got like 4 carries. Price only got 4 carries. I mean,
it was unbelievable that they really tried to force the issue more of running the ball with Riley Leonard than they tried to kind of continue to maybe give Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price some more carries to kind of maybe get their juices flowing a little bit more. It just seemed like that Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock were not – they didn't want to – I don't know. I did not watch Marcus Freeman's post game, although I did hear his explanation of the field goal, which was half-assed, where he was just basically like, yeah, we just felt like that was the best decision at the time, and we went for it.
I thought it made sense. They had 9 minutes. They had 9 minutes. They were down 17
you're in the national championship, dude. Go for broke. Go for it.
I agree.
You know, but at any rate, yeah, I kind of felt like they wildly underused Love and Price. Hold on a second. Sorry, cats were wanting in. I felt like they wildly underused Price and Love. They did not try to get them going like they should have. They used Riley Leonard, and it came back to haunt them. But look at what Riley Leonard did. You know, part of the narrative on Notre Dame all year was that their passing attack was not good, and it wasn't for good reason. They were like the 102nd ranked passing team in the country, and Riley Leonard ended up having the best game passing of the entire season. He threw for over 250 yards for the first time all year, 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions. And Notre Dame did not turn over the football at all. So, but it was just, Ohio State's defense was just dominant. That first drive, Ohio State was playing a very basic man defense. They weren't blitzing. They weren't trying to fluster Leonard. And for good reason, because of the fact that they were running it like they were. But then they started stuffing the run. And then they started blitzing Riley Leonard. And the next 3 drives for Notre Dame, obviously 3 or 4 drives, completely just stuffed.
They kind of did beat Notre Dame at their own game because it turned into like a clock control type of a game. Yeah. And Ohio State did a great job of executing. I mean, I would have liked to see them score 60 points. But I'm also kind of happy that, Marcus Freeman didn't get embarrassed. He is a Buckeye. But the effort in the second half, too, by Notre Dame's defense, and then that wide receiver, I can't believe I forgot his name. He's only like a sophomore, Golden or whatever.
Al Golden?
No, the guy that got the touchdowns for Notre Dame at the end, the one wide receiver. It wasn't Faison, it was the other one.
Talking about Jordan Greathouse?
Greathouse, that's it.
Yeah.
Not Golden, yeah. Greathouse. I thought Greathouse had a great second half. That effort from that defensive player to run and punch the ball out of Igbuka's arm, like that was a great play. I thought Notre Dame played with a lot of heart, and but at the same time, it was nice to see Ohio State get that big play at the end and just kind of make a statement and be like, hey, we could have ran with this. It was kind of like we could have ran with this if we wanted to, but the game was already won.
And that's it. This once again, it was like this national championship game. Just kind of, you just said it a minute ago. Really, the score was not as indicative of how dominant Ohio State was. I mean, they were up 31-7, 31-7 in the third quarter, and then Notre Dame, started mounting a little bit of a comeback. They get that Jaden Greathouse touchdown, where amazing touchdown catch. He catches it, slips out of a tackle. I believe it was Jermaine Matthews, slips out of his tackle, and then just kind of weaves his way untouched for like a 34-yard touchdown. And then they get the 2. Then they get down the field, botch the field goal, but then get the ball back after Emeka Egbuka, of all people, fumbles the ball, and like this close, dude. I mean, that close to being down before he fumbled the ball. But they get it back. They score, 2-point conversion. There's still, 5 or 6 minutes left, but you're still like, okay, this just went from 31-7 to 31-23. And if Notre Dame can somehow get the ball back again, score again, and get another 2-point conversion, this game's tied up. That obviously didn't happen. Ohio State's defense was able to hold off the rest of the way. And then, you seal the game on 3rd and 11 with a touchdown, or not a touchdown, but a 57-yard toss between Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith, who were nearly automatic all season long. And then Jaden Fielding tacks on the field goal, and you win the game. So what was your most impressive, I don't know, guy, stat, memory of the national championship game? Because, with Jack and the strip sack fumble return, 88 yards against Texas for a touchdown, a couple of different plays by Jeremiah Smith in the Rose Bowl, Travion Henderson Rose Bowl run, the crazy 75-yard touchdown catch he had on a screen at the end of the Cotton Bowl against, even Tennessee, a couple of touchdown passes to Smith. It just almost felt like this national championship game, I don't want to say it was a letdown, but it just didn't have the excitement, even though we were playing Notre Dame, and even though, yes, they technically won that game by the least amount of points of all 4 of the playoff games. This one just didn't seem to kind of have that the first drive was like that Notre Dame 18-play, 75-yard, however many minute drive, 6-7 minute drive, was like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, they came to play. And then all of a sudden it's 21-7 at the half. And then Quinshawn comes out and busts off the crazy run to start the second half. They score 28-7, get the ball back 31-7. And now it's just kind of like,
yeah, they won the middle eight. I just thought it was, they kind of played the Notre Dame style of football. It wasn't flashy. They had to make sure they were giving their defense rest because that offense is going to hold the ball. They let them hold the ball. They let them, I don't want to say they let them score, but they did score that first drive. And then, the first quarter was already done. They get the ball back. They got to take a TV timeout. So I think it was just kind of tough to get momentum. Then they got momentum, and then they won the middle eight, and it was just kind of like, all right, second half, it's 31-7. We got this game. Like, Notre Dame can't score fast enough.
Yeah.
So it seemed like they sat on the lead. It felt like a Jim Tressel style game. Just we had some excitement.
It did. Yeah. It was just very weird. Just, the first quarter and the fourth quarter, really, if you look at it, Ohio State technically scored 3 points in the first and fourth quarter, but it was the middle. It was the especially that second quarter. They posted all three of their touchdowns in the first half were in the second quarter. Of course, that first drive that they had after Notre Dame came out, and that was huge. That was huge. Yeah, it
was like that was also like an 8-minute drive.
They both ate up the clock. In fact, Let me see here. I've got the official stat book pulled up. Yeah, Notre Dame's drive was 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Felt like forever. Ohio State's first drive was nearly 10 minutes, dude. 9 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah. It just wasn't. It was an old school style Midwest football game. They kind of beat Notre Dame.
No. Timeout. I got that backwards. My fault. Notre Dame's drive was 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Ohio State's drive was 6 minutes and 5 seconds.
That's still a good drive.
I saw that and I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
It's 6 minutes. It's still a good drive for Ohio State when they score. Yeah. They had like 2 touchdowns already against Oregon within 6 minutes. So I think them not getting the ball first. I think if Ohio State gets the ball first, they attack fast. Notre Dame has to overcome that momentum. I think the game could have went differently, but either way, Ohio State was going to win. I'm happy they won. I'm happy they all survived the golf cart breaking, which everybody's already talked about by now. And I'm glad Pat McAfee's standing up for the Buckeyes. It is nice that AJ Hawk's on that show, but arguably the largest sports show right now. McAfee's going to task asking, why aren't these Buckeyes rated higher? And then Colin Cowherd's talking about how good Caleb, like, it's crazy that everybody's talking about how great the Buckeyes are. I don't think we've ever had the media discuss how good the Buckeyes are. And I think that, looking at Will Howard, he's projected by some people to go second round is the highest I've heard. But I think, it's nice to see he gets to go to the combine, have a big day. We hopefully get to see how athletic he is. And what's weird is like everybody thought JJ McCarthy was something, and he didn't really. JJ McCarthy never had a game like Will Howard did. You know what I mean? Towards the end, it was just him managing the game. So, and I'm not trying to take away from JJ McCarthy, but I mean, we'll see what happens in the NFL. But I mean, Trevion Henderson.
McCarthy at times made some crazy plays, especially when it came to Ohio State. He did. That guy could just escape sacks and hit guys along the sideline and over the middle on these pinpoint ridiculous passes on the run. I'm just like, how is this dude doing this? And he typically always seemed to do it against Ohio State. But as of right now, yeah, I mean, aside from injuries, obviously injuries included, he's not had a great career yet, but it's only his first year in the league, so give him a little bit more time, and he might come around. I don't know.
Yeah, thankfully, there was a lot of rumors this week. Thankfully, Jeremiah Smith said he's staying. I think Caleb Downs said he's staying. Or Carnell Tate said he's staying. Yeah. But as of right now, when it comes to our coaches, go here to On 3. We see Jim Knowles, Chip Kelly, two top stories. Jim Knowles likely to leave Ohio State, accept job as Penn State defensive coordinator. So everybody's talking about Jim Knowles' wife's family being from Oklahoma. That's why he's going to go to Oklahoma. But it turns out Jim Knowles is actually from Philadelphia. I imagine he grew up a Penn State fan. He attended Cornell. So I think that, there's just a strong chance that's why he's going to Penn State. And then Chip Kelly, they're talking about him being either the offensive coordinator at Houston, which would be kind of exciting because I'm sure he could work well with CJ Stroud, or they're also talking about potentially Jacksonville. So they're talking about him going in as a coordinator. I guess they talked about his one season at San Francisco was his last NFL stint when he went 2-14. So those are, that's just kind of where we're at. When you're at the top of the mountain, everybody's going to want to see. And then we're kind of to this point, Marcus Freeman loses Al Gordon to Cincinnati, but it's like, Marcus Freeman was the defensive coordinator. He's the defensive guy there. So you imagine he's got people in the ranks, and maybe, we've had Brian Hartline as the co-offensive coordinator. Maybe it's time for him to take over. And then who's taken over at, defensive coordinator? Who knows? I mean, we got the cornerbacks coach. There's a lot of talented coaches on the team. I think if you're really going to have like a team that has leadership, yeah, those old guys just came in to help you build what you had. And now you should be able to promote from within. I mean, you've seen Nick Saban do it. I mean, but even then, like how many times Greg Schiano came through after Luke Fickell left? I mean, there's going to be plenty of talented people that want to go coach at Ohio State.
Absolutely. And yeah, if it ends up being the case where Jimmy leaves and Chip leave, is that going to suck? Absolutely. And I know that they just offered Jim an extra knot on top of the, I think $2.2 million that he was already making was going to make him the highest paid defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's not official yet, but yeah, they're saying over $3 million. Penn State would be prepared to pay Knowles well over $3 million to make him the highest paid coordinator in college football history.
Yeah. So, is Ohio State willing to pony up over $3 million? Well, apparently Penn State is, and Ohio State.
It's got a lot of money.
And it'll be interesting to see, though, whether or not Ohio State offered Jim the same amount of money, and if they did, or even more, why was he willing to leave Ohio State to go to Penn State? Is it to your point, like he grew up in Philly, grew up Penn State fan, kind of going home, even though, yes, his fiance does live back in Oklahoma, but, you know, why are you going to move even further away from your fiance? Is she going to come up? I mean, who knows what the case may be, but if indeed Penn State is going to sign him for $3.1 million, did Ohio State not match it? Did they try but weren't successful? Because at that point, what is the reason behind him not wanting to stick around at Ohio State for the same amount or even more money? If he was offered the same amount or more. If he wasn't, then I guess we can understand, like, okay, I'm from Philly. I grew up Penn State fan. Yeah, this is like a no-brainer, and they're offering me more money. You know, obviously at that point you can put 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 together. But I don't know. We'll see. And then Chip, I almost kind of feel like, you know, Chip came in here as a favor to Ryan Day. Just like, hey, man, I'll come in. I'll help you win a Natty. You know what I'm saying? I'll take a pay.
He probably wanted to transition
I'll help you
to being
win a
a
Natty.
coordinator, too. I think he wanted to transition to just being a coordinator.
And maybe that's it. Maybe he's, you know, he even said himself at one point that he really has enjoyed like being back with the players, because as a head coach, you have to do the head coach kind of things. You're not really involved with the team as much directly hands-on like you are obviously as a coordinator. And he said that he really enjoyed, and this was just back like a few weeks ago during the playoff run, he said, hey, I've really enjoyed becoming a coordinator again. And maybe that was it. Maybe his underlying reason to come back to Ohio State was indeed, I'm kind of tired of being a head coach. I want to get back in the room, be hands-on with the guys, and this would be a good stepping stone to get back into the NFL, but take a step down, but get back in the NFL and just be like a coordinator. Who knows? But it would suck if they lost those guys. But, yeah, you would think that that Ohio State, you pointed this out earlier, and I believe it was before we started recording, you would think that Ohio State would still have the tools, the monetary tools, and it maybe even somebody on the staff to step into the role. I don't know if they have that defensively. I think Matt Guerrieri being a defensive coordinator, he's not ready yet. Tim Walton was a DC for the Carolina Panthers back a few years ago. One season, they weren't very good defensively when he was there. He seems to be happy being the cornerbacks coach. Who knows, though? And then Larry Johnson. I mean, let's face it, old Lair's getting up there. And but I don't necessarily know if he's ready to retire. It's not like he's that old, but I want to say Larry Johnson's close to 70 years old. And he's probably getting to the point where he's maybe thinking about hanging up his Spurs as well. But would it be easier for him physically to be in a booth as a defensive coordinator rather than have to really walk around the field as the defensive line coach and be at every practice where he's, you know, standing there and having to go through the drills and stuff like that? I would think physically a defensive coordinator role would be a little easier on him. So who knows? It could be Larry Johnson. I have a feeling they're probably going to go look outside, though, for somebody a little younger, hipper, brasher, you know, kind of thing. Nothing against you, Larry. I know you're a hip dude, but I think they're probably just going to want to look for somebody who's, you know, just, I don't know, gonna be there. That might, you know, obviously established, come in, maybe work like Jim Knowles for 3 years. Offensively, I would guarantee that a lot of Buckeye Nation are going to say, okay, it's time for Brian Hartline to step up, and maybe he's the choice. I'm, you know, I don't know. Ohio State being his first coordinator job, he's certainly been with the team long enough. He's
technically the co-coordinator now,
and he is technically the co-coordinator now. So, yeah, is it maybe if Chip indeed leaves, is it time to hand the keys over to Brian Hartline? I wouldn't be opposed to that. Look at the job that he's done with the wide receivers up to this point. So we'll see. It'll be an interesting next few days here in Buckeye Nation to see what happens with both Chip and Jim. The mad scientists that they were playing chess all season long while everybody else was playing checkers.
Hero Canoe enters the transfer portal. Not a surprise. I like the dude. He used to come out in the pressers and kind of was a goofball, but then he got on the playing field and kind of embarrassed himself a couple times. Dylan had said sometime mid-season it was pretty obvious how good he wasn't. Hero Canoe wasn't. And then we did not see him play a lot. He was not out goofing around at the pressers anymore. So not a surprise that he's transferring. I don't know. That's it. I mean, I don't have a ton. I just think that there's.
Well, let's move on. So,
wow,
what do you think?
This is some. Do you want to hear some really crazy, some crazy heavy news that On3 has?
What?
Ryan Day's wife reveals Ohio State coach was told follow father's footsteps and commit suicide after Michigan loss. Wow, that's messed up.
Yeah. You know, I was obviously not happy at all with Ryan Day following the loss to the Rodents. Absolutely, I was fit to be tied. But Ryan Day's dad committed suicide. So to tell Ryan Day, that is the lunatic fringe that Kirk Herbstreit was talking about. Yeah. And, some of these publications, more like they're just social media websites, that I saw one of them in particular. I'll leave their name out of my mouth, but I think they're a bunch of hacks, to be honest with you. They came out with this article about how they're no longer supporting Herbstreit because of his lunatic fringe comment and all this stuff. Dude, go be part of the lunatic fringe. All right. I may be severely unhappy about, and still am not happy, the fact that Ryan Day has lost 4 in a row to the Rodents. But admittedly, a national championship will salve a gaping wound. I wholeheartedly admit, but never in a million years would I ever tell someone, go kill yourself because you lost a damn football game. And for the fans out there that are honestly going to act that way, okay, I understand you're upset. Like, damn it, like I was. Like Ryan Day just doesn't get it. I don't know if he's the right coach. Okay, you went and proved me wrong, Ryan. You proved me wrong. I'm eating crow. You proved me wrong, and I am willing to admit when I am wrong, severely wrong. I was also wrong about Will Howard this year. William, you proved me wrong. Eating a fat plate of crow on that as well. Our boy Jeremy Royer totally called Will Howard at the beginning of the year. Not even the beginning of the year. He even said when Will Howard committed here back in the winter that Will Howard was going to thrive. And I was like, you're crazy. Well, here we are. Will Howard thrived. Had one of the greatest single seasons in OSU history. We can talk about that here in a second. But the fact that there are some of those lunatic fringe who are hiding behind fake profile pictures, fake names, and willing to just talk a bunch of shit on social media and the internet, you're despicable. You're disgusting. You are part of the lunatic fringe, and I am sad that you even consider yourself a Buckeye fan. It's one thing to be upset about how the team plays and to even call out Ryan Day and say, dude, I don't know if this is the man for the job anymore. But it's another thing to tell him to go kill himself, especially when his dad did that very same thing. That's fucked up.
I don't know his dad killed himself. I just know that he talks about how does this
work? That's why. That's why, because his dad killed himself. Yeah. And that's why he is an advocate for mental health, because of what happened with his dad. So
I wasn't saying that. I was just saying, when he was talking about the loss, and there was so how does this rank? He's like, it's up there with my dad. When I found out my dad died, that 4th loss to Michigan. So I think I just saw something there. On3's already posting, top 3 candidates to replace Jim Knowles. So it looks like that's a done deal.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. It's exciting. We won. Michigan, should we do the screw the blue? I don't call them the team up north. I guess maybe it's because I grew up in Toledo. I guess I could do that. You call them the Rodents, but I don't play for the team. And I'm in the press corps. I was in the press corps. So, but the team up north, they arguably are the only team that has an equal amount of momentum that we do going into next season. They get Larry Ellison, or Joe Ellison, as Deutscheville likes to call him. He's helping fund the Michigan NIL collective now, and they just land that $10 million quarterback. However much it is, it's a lot of money. They put 50 points up on Northwestern right before that. They beat the Buckeyes. Going the offseason, we're all talking smack about what's going on with them. They come out, beat Alabama pretty easily. Like they took care of business. It wasn't a pretty game, but that's Michigan football this season when they're good. So now Ohio State moves on, wins the national championship. Michigan's made some pretty good recruits. Looks like they're getting in the transfer portal. They fired their offensive coordinator. I mean, they're restructuring. They seem to have a lot of momentum. It's really interesting. Just like, the rivalry shifts to Michigan upsetting Ohio State 4 years in a row. I guess it wasn't an upset, but to me it was. And now the Big Ten is the most dominant conference.
Yeah. It's nothing lasts forever. And I had said for years that if the Ohio State-Michigan game is going to continue to be considered a rivalry, Michigan has to start winning. Well, okay, they've won 4 in a row. Now, I know throughout this, and you and I are very much hey, get past the cheating, okay? Get past the cheating. Just drop it, okay? It could be an argument if and when the NCAA comes out and gives their official ruling, which they haven't yet. Not sure we're going to see one till who knows when. I thought we'd see their official ruling like last March or April. And here we are almost a year later and still haven't heard anything. So who knows when it's going to happen. But when the NCAA comes out and says, okay, here's your penalty. Yes, you were guilty of cheating. This is the evidence we found. These are your punishments. Until that happens, Ohio State, you've technically lost 4 years in a row to Michigan. Michigan, you as of right now are still 2023 national champs. So the fact, though, that Michigan did what they did the last 4 years to Ohio State, then won a national championship, then Ohio State follows it up with a national championship as well. Big Ten has now won 2 years in a row. I don't want to sit here and say that the SEC is completely dead and they're not as dominant as they have been. I mean, it's 2 years now where, the Big Ten has won the Natty and the Big Ten beat the SEC. At least Michigan beat the SEC and Alabama. And then Ohio State comes out and two wins over the SEC in the playoff this year. Definitely it feels like a momentum shift. The momentum has shifted. Am I ready to say that like the SEC is completely dead and they're no longer dominant like they used to be? I'm not ready to throw my hat into that ring, but definitely the momentum has shifted towards the Big Ten. So, yeah.
Well, what do you got for your Screw the Blue segment?
Well, so 2 things I want to ask you, Drew. All right. Number one, where does this OSU team rate for you as far as the last 3 national championship teams? 02, 14, 24.
I think they're kind of all standalone, to be honest. They were all different. They're all kind of like different phases of what Ohio State was building to. Jim Tressel, it's kind of the conversation was getting in there, and then it was we had the talent. We needed somebody to run that brand of football. So we got it. We win the Natty with that brand of football. Claret, we have issues with him. We don't quite get it. Our best team gets blown out by Urban Meyer. And then we make it to the Natty again, which is the next team. Urban Meyer comes in. He says we need to start talk. He's talked about a lot on his Triple Option podcast that the Big Ten competition wasn't anything compared to what he was used to in the SEC. And then like he had his team come out twice to warm up because he felt like their energy was off just because there was no juice out in the stadium. There was no energy. And then he had some big mission. You know, he said he went to the Alabama Notre Dame national championship game, which I think was his first year, where he couldn't compete in that undefeated team, but he said they would have lost to either of those teams. And then he said he created this whole thing called the Chase, and all these guys to buy in and say, we're going to recruit in the South. We're going to be the strongest, the fastest. We're going to do this. And they couldn't tell by the warm-ups how bad they were going to beat teams. And he said he felt that way in that 14 season. And then Urban Meyer's up there, and we're kind of like level off. We lose big games that we probably shouldn't. We don't make it back. We lose to Clemson in the playoff. We missed the playoff really close it was really tight. And then Ryan Day takes over, and it felt like at first we were at this new level of football. We're now, okay, we're dominating everybody. It's not like we are the dominant, kind of one of the top premier teams. And then it kind of led into this season. So I feel like it's been like this steady rise. But I felt like each team really symbolized its own. Like it's really hard to compare the teams. Like it's hard to, football is different. I mean, just what our knowledge of sports science going into football and the marriage of the two. So I think it's tough for me to rank. I think like, you know, we shouldn't have beat Miami. Like everybody thought we were going to get blown out in Miami. And to me, like that 2002 season, that was the first real national championship game Ohio State had ever played in. It wasn't, everybody's voting on it. Nobody voted that year because it was like a couple years later, they voted to give USC a championship with LSU's BCS. There was two
next season.
Yeah. And there was no question. And like USC, remember all the Iowa fans thought they could beat us, and then they play USC and get their ass kicked in the Rose Bowl. We win the national championship. And had there been, I mean, a 14 playoff, I don't know if we beat that USC team. I think that USC versus Miami game might have been really good, but that wouldn't have happened. I mean, like, let's say we move on to play USC. I don't know how we match up. I think Maurice Claret was so good. I think our defense was so good. I think we were still the best team that year. But then I look at, there's a lot of teams where, you know, because if this was a 4-year playoff year, we're not in the playoff. No, neither's Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame is. We're not. Yeah. Penn State's not. So I think it's a totally different. I think, you know, I would have loved to see that 2018 team, 2021 team in a playoff. 2022 we got in last year's team in a 12-team playoff. I mean, last year's team, I mean, I'm sure we would have lost in a heartbreaking fashion, but I think we would have done well. I think we could have elevated. I would have liked to have seen if Kyle McCord could have elevated his game. We never really trusted Kyle McCord to play quarterback. So I can't really compare. I think like this season's win was needed. I think that it kind of sets the stage for the next elevation within the Buckeyes program. We need to beat Michigan though. Like, I mean, like it's not fun, but like I said, I think I said on the last podcast, or maybe even maybe it's just we talked on the phone, like Kirby Smart is 1-5 against Alabama. He's got 2 national championships. Do you think they care?
And that's where this weird, yeah.
That's a big rivalry.
It is.
Like, but you really want to be second to Alabama? Like, oh, well, yeah, it's still Alabama.
As we are now progressing major college football, because remember, all the other divisions have like 32-team playoffs.
Yeah.
All the other divisions do. Major Division 1A, FBS, whatever you want to call it, does not. So, but as they are continuing to progress towards more of a pro model, it is going to become more like the pros. People are already talking about it, especially Buckeye fans, that the ultimate goal is to win the national championship, just like in the pros. What's the ultimate goal? win the Super Bowl.
Still got to beat Michigan, though. Their fans are so petty and annoying. There's Michigan fans that went down just to talk shit to Buckeye fans. They went down.
I'm telling you, man, I hate to say it, but it's going to move away. It's going to water down the rivalry for guys like us that are old school that grew up.
It's not, though. That's the thing.
I'm sorry, Drew.
The rivalry.
It's already doing it, man. Look at what people are saying on social media. It doesn't matter, man, if we lose to Michigan now. It doesn't matter. Big Ten title? Who cares about a Big Ten title? Look at Oregon. Yay, you won a Big Ten title and we're undefeated until what? You got hammered against Ohio State, and it didn't mean squat. Hang that Big Ten title up in your rafters. We'll hang the Natty. It's all good. It's all about winning the national championship. For guys like you and I, yes, it still means something to beat Michigan for the old school fan, but it will begin to dilute the rivalry to where losing to Michigan dude, I even talked to our boy, you know who, and I think I already said this on one of our podcasts, and I'm almost positive I already mentioned it to you, but I'll say it to everybody else out there. We're talking about a hardcore, diehard OSU fan who already said he would gladly accept losing to Michigan every year if it meant making deep runs into the playoff and occasionally winning a national championship.
I mean, that's silly.
It's already begun, Drew. It's already begun.
Yeah, but if we didn't have the rivalry,
we're talking about a hardcore, diehard OSU fan.
That team doesn't become that team without a loss to Michigan.
And case in point.
So the rivalry does matter. Like, had they not had that bitter taste in their mouth, they wouldn't have played the way they played. They wouldn't have played with the chip on their shoulder. That I always say the Buckeyes only win when they have a chip on their shoulder.
Well, but you had just said you have to beat Michigan, and my point is, no, you don't. Not anymore.
You don't have to, but I mean the rivalry matters, and I tell you what, I guarantee if Jack Sawyer said he could change anything about this season, it would have been beating Michigan and winning the Big Ten.
And foregoing a national title?
No, and winning the national title.
Oh, well.
Like I'm sure they're happy that they got the national title, but that's still a stain on that team's fucking leg. Like they're never gonna forget. Like he's never gonna forget losing to Michigan 4 times.
So then this brings up the point. This was my next question, Drew. Do Michigan fans still have bragging rights over Ohio State this year?
Yeah, of course. But it doesn't matter because they didn't win. Like, so it's like we have shit to say back. Like, okay, cool. So you guys, you beat us. I'm glad you know, good for you. You won. Okay, so now you've won 6 games in the last 25 years. Very good. You won quite a few. You got 4 in a row. Good for you. Okay, so how are they going to play next year? Yeah. Okay, cool. You beat Alabama. That's good. That's it. That's what they got. So they can say, okay, we beat you 4 years. Okay, you did, but you still
no, it ain't just that, Drew. Not only have we beaten you the last 4 years, and we beat both you and Alabama in back-to-back games, in back-to-back seasons, but when we won our national championship, we not only beat you guys, but we went undefeated. You guys lost to us, and you lost 2 games.
Oh, that's last year. We're talking about this year.
No, I'm just talking about in general.
Okay.
Right now.
Let's see how you do next year.
So what? Look at what we did last year, and we still have beaten you 4 years in a row.
Okay, cool. Good for you. I'm glad your team's relevant again.
Yeah, me too. More relevant than you guys. At least we win national championships undefeated, and we can still beat you when you win yours. Okay. You can't beat us when we win ours. Ours is bigger than and better than yours.
I mean, recently. I mean, I'm not going to argue with the fool. I would just say, yeah, okay, good for you. Okay, cool. We'll see what happens next year.
It's because, quite frankly, we don't have much of an argument. I hate
we don't, but it's just like they don't either. That's the thing. Like, okay, I mean, but if that's all they do is beat Michigan or beat Ohio State, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah,
But
but
they
isn't
have to
that
do
the
more.
ultimate bragging right? Head-to-head matchup?
Oh, it is.
Or
It is.
is it not more?
No, it's still like between the two teams, but it's still like, I mean, Alabama could always say that to Georgia, but Georgia did beat them the one year, but I think that with the expanded playoff, I mean, if Michigan's good, it's really going to turn into who can beat the other team multiple times in a year.
Multiple times in 1 year?
Yeah, that's what's going to, I mean, if Michigan actually is good enough to make it to the playoff and win games outside of Ohio State.
I guess when I hear multiple, I'm thinking like more than two. But
I mean, it could be three. It could be three, realistically. The way they play each other, okay, they're still the two best teams in the Big Ten. It could happen, not likely. They play again, and then they go into the playoff, and if it's the two best teams, they're going to eventually meet again.
yeah, I think, and there very well could be a day where two teams meet 3 times in the
Could have
same
been us
season.
in Oregon this year.
I mean, Oregon and Penn State could have played. Obviously, it would have been for national championship, but I think the odds of that are wildly unlikely, but not 100% unlikely. There at some point very well could be a situation where two teams are going to play each other 3 times in the same season. But no, I just when it comes to Ohio State, Michigan, unfortunately, as of right now, pre-NCAA coming out and passing off their official judgment and penalties, right now it sucks, but Michigan fans do have bragging rights over us. They do. I'm trying not to take away from what Ohio State just did, because, folks, everybody is talking about, and for good reason, because stats don't lie, what Ohio State just did. And the gauntlet, the meat grinder that they ran through to get to the national championship game. And the fact that they beat 4 top 5 teams and 6 in the top 10, which has never been done in college football history, at least not, once again, major FBS Division 1A college football history. This was historic. And for me, this team probably ranks just slightly below the 0-2 team, just as far as my favorites. Because for me personally, the 0-2 team is memorable because of the fact that they were the first national championship team I ever witnessed in my lifetime. But what this team did and how they kind of had to fight back against adversity, I think even more so than that 14 team. Now, the 14 team, obviously the fact that they crushed Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, which if they don't do that, probably don't get in. Then they knock off Alabama of all teams, right? As the 4th seed, Alabama's the 1 seed. You knock them off, and then you beat the Heisman Trophy winner by 3 touchdowns for a national championship. Huh?
They lost the turnover ratio in that Oregon game. Like, they kept Oregon in that game.
Oh, yeah. They turned the ball over like 4 times. And I think Oregon's only turnover was at the very end when Eli picked off Mariota, some stupid. But at any rate, for me, though, what this team did to fight against adversity, yes, this team of those other 2 or of the 3 national championship teams did not beat the Rodents, which, yes, still means something to me and still will mean something to me personally. Don't misconstrue my comments earlier about that the new format is going to water down rivalries, because I wholeheartedly believe, especially with the younger kids out there, the younger generations who are growing up, and even for those well-known friends of ours that are the same age as us, if not older, that believe that it doesn't matter about beating Michigan anymore, win the national championship. Well, for me personally, there is still going to be something to be said about beating Michigan. Just let me put that out there and let it stay. But still, this team ran the gauntlet, and I'm never going to forget it. And this defense was nuts. The one thing that this defense didn't do that I would love to have seen them do more of, honestly, was to create turnovers. But hey, I'm nitpicking now, You're stopping the other team from scoring points. Okay, that's enough said, because that's ultimately what it means at the end of the day. Don't let the other team score any points or limit their points scored. So for me, 0-2, very close second this year, and then a very close third, 14. They're all near and dear to my heart. But like you said, they all kind of stand on their own, obviously, in their own way, and that's obviously going to be the case. But,
yeah, I can't take away from any of them. I got fond memories of all three.
Yep. Yep.
So I got nothing. I got nothing, man. I couldn't rank them. I think they're all equally good. They all serve a different purpose. They're all in different eras. I like that we were the first to win the 4-team playoff, the first to win the 12-team playoff, and kind of made a statement of why it was necessary.
Yep.
Since we were the 8th seed.
Yeah. And there you go. I mean, the fact that they get in as the lowest team to have home field advantage in the first round of the playoff, and the fact that they did it with emphatic fashion. I mean, Ohio State just looked like straight up looked like the absolute most dominant team, and they were the most dominant team, at least in the 4 games that they played. Now, who knows? They play SMU or not SMU, but Arizona State. Do things end up differently? They play Georgia instead of Notre Dame, or they play Penn State again for the national championship. How did things end up? I don't know, but it's the way things went. And the ball literally at times and throughout the entire playoff, it bounced Ohio State's way. And this is where we're at. So.
Hell yeah. Well, I think with that being said, we can bring everybody an episode again. I think we should keep going this year, Andy, if you're down, just to stay up on what's going on with the Buckeyes.
Absolutely. I think we got some things to talk about, because transfer portal stuff. We're going to have some more guys, I'm sure, hitting the portal. The current window is closed, I believe, until after the spring.
But I think it's, much like it was last year, guys that left the portal. I mean, again, Julian Fleming, large disappointment. Dallin Hayden, large disappointment. Devontae Trainum, he even changed his name. Large disappointment where he landed. Evan Pryor had a couple good games, but he didn't really steal the show. He had a couple big plays. So I just think that guys that are leaving, they're usually leaving to get out, to clear the way, let the younger guys come through. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. The Lincoln Keenholes, Julian Sayin, and then we got the other guy that just came in too. We'll see how Aaron Nolan does at South Carolina. I hope he does well. I was a big fan of Aaron Nolan, watching him play. So
yeah, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. That's just the where we're at in college football. It's just hopefully you can suck it up and keep moving forward.
Everyone follow him. He's at Andy's Wired. You gonna change your handle? Or you're staying on Columbus Wired, are you, for golf?
Yeah. So once again,
we'll talk about this next week.
Well, it's already out there. I'm just going to say it now. No, I'm not changing my handle because even if I weren't to write for Columbus Wired, I'm still wired regardless, every day, all day, baby. But yeah, this is going to be the last. This was the last season I was covering Ohio State football for quite a while. If you ask my wife, she says it's for good. But who knows? I don't want to ever discount anything down the road.
Maybe they're going to passion to write again. Maybe we could.
I am still going to cover Columbus Wired on some other things, especially Memorial Tournament for you golf fans out there. I know you might be thinking like, ugh, golf, but I love when the Memorial Tournament comes into town. It's a 4-day event, and it's a ton of fun.
We can stay on the beat digitally. I think it's very interesting. Enough guys go down there and create the same type of content we were creating. We just won't be at the Woody. But I think we can definitely have some talks. I think we could maybe do an extra show, do a pre-show of a game and then a post-show. I think that'd be nice. Maybe do it. We won't make it Thursday. We'll watch some pressers throughout the week. We could maybe still do. We'll figure it out. Anyway, it's for us to be discussed. He's at Andy's Wired. Follow me. I'm at Drew Sample on Twitter or / me on X. And we'll look forward to bringing you guys another episode soon.